Good afternoon, everybody. I am Rondi Allen. I'm the Executive Director of Crosspoint Clinical Services. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming and welcome online. As we go through the presentation today, those of you online, please feel free to put questions and comments in the chat. We'll have a time toward the end where we address those. This pastor's luncheon event is something we like to convene about 3 times a year to try to create an opportunity for pastors to get to know us, get to know, and us to get to know you. And we like to put on for a variety of topics that we hope will be educational and enriching, informative for you in the work that you do. And we would definitely welcome things that you'd be interested in hearing about in the future that maybe from a mental health perspective would be helpful to you. We love your feedback about topics. We'd also be interested if you wanted to host one of these luncheons. We'd welcome that as well. We are hosting our next event in October. So today we're going to go to about 1-ish. And if you haven't discovered in terms of our physical surroundings, for those that are here, that the bathrooms are out this side this door. So I'm just going to say a little bit about Crosspoint for those of you who are not yet familiar with us, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker for the day. So we opened in April 2013. We just celebrated 10 years. We're an agency that specializes in Christian faith-based counseling services. We employ 26 counselors at this point in 4 locations throughout the state, many of them also doing virtual counseling. We have a wonderful administrative support team and a marketing team that's here doing well, Ron and Faith. And wonderful IT support here in Ryan running the event here on the back end. We also have a faith-based health and wellness program. We have 2 trainers that have an online fitness community and do personal health and wellness coaching, all from a Christian perspective, because we believe as a vision that we want to pursue God's redemption of mind, body, and spirit. Because, you know, we see ourselves sometimes as compartmentalized beings. We go to a doctor for this, a pastor for this, a therapist for that. But we really are integrated beings, and we want to try to be in harmony with how God created us. So we're also a nonprofit, you should know. We're owned by the Commonwealth under the supervision of a board of directors. And it's our goal, especially as a management team, to build this organization to be a legacy for years to come, serving people and their needs. So our speaker today is Ed Caisse. He's a 30-year veteran of the Hampden County Sheriff's Department. But more importantly than that, he is a deep man of faith, a man of deep faith and conviction. He was raised in the community of Holyoke, and through his long tenure with the Sheriff's Department, had seen the journey of many young people who later became involved in crime in their lives. And through those criminal activities, you know, as we talk often, he says that he realized that a lot of these young people never had a shot. He saw the circumstances that they grew up in. He understood what created the environment for them to get involved in criminal behavior. And so he was moved, I believe, by God to start this organization called the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, which he'll describe today. And, you know, it's been my profound privilege for the past 6 years or so to work alongside Ed in this effort. It's amazing work. And you know, truth be told, I feel like I have personally been brought to a different place in my faith through this work. I feel like I've seen Jesus as I've never seen him before by being involved in the community and in many of the programs and being with many of the people that we have gotten to be with. Because my eyes, for some reason, were really opened to how much time Jesus spent serving in addition to teaching. Maybe even more than teaching, if you really kind of look at the Gospels. And he did it in many ways. Obviously, he fed people, he healed people. And this is how the Master chose to put the kingdom on display. So we really wanted to highlight this work because I really do believe it's a miracle that I would love for many people to not only see but experience, and he'll talk a little bit about that. And, you know, one of these times that Ed and I were sitting down together scheming about something, we scheme about many things. We have many times that we're dreaming about things that we'd like to work on. I was telling him about this interest that I have of maybe applying to a doctoral program. And in the application for this, which is actually, partially completed, I had started to write this essay, and really inspired by the work in Holyoke, and particularly this community center that we wanted to write. And I'd shared with him the introduction, and he'd asked that I share it with you as an introduction to what he's going to say. So it starts off, Luke 9:10-13. It says, when the apostles returned, they reported to Jesus what they had done. They had just been sent out. He took them with him, and they withdrew by themselves to a town called Bethsaida. But the crowds learned about it and followed him. He welcomed them and spoke to them about the kingdom of God and healed those who needed healing. Late in the afternoon, the 12 came to him and said, send the crowd away so they can go to the surrounding villages and countryside and find food and lodging because we are in a remote place. He replied, you give them something to eat. Once again, fumbling for answers, the disciples are attempting to comprehend this man, this new kingdom, and what their rabbi was trying to teach them. Their private lesson was once again interrupted by clamoring crowds, masses, and needs. Perhaps left to themselves, they would have prompted the crowds to leave and come back during the healing session scheduled tomorrow at 12. The master will be performing healings later. It would seem that from the circumstances that even Jesus had even intended to get some privacy and some time away with the disciples. After all, they wanted time to share with their master about the miracles they had witnessed, the power that had gone forth from them, the joy. But Jesus not only welcomed this vagabond crowd, he taught them and healed them and fed them. Did they even ask to be fed? If Jesus were in our congregation, perhaps we would have taken him aside to discuss boundaries and quality time and time and place for everything and priorities. It would seem that he was, quote, taken off track from meeting the needs of his disciples. Or was he? Perhaps Jesus, as the consummate rabbi, was orchestrating the perfect object lesson for his disciples. How exactly do these physical needs line up with kingdom teaching, especially with his chosen 12? It's notable that Jesus did not just feed them, he told these disrupted disciples to feed them. Perhaps, adding to the annoyance of the moment, he made it their job, and they had no idea how they were going to get it done logically. Then, far beyond the pale of logic, a mustard seed of faith, 5 loaves, 2 fish, became a banquet for 5,000 plus. Millennia later, followers of Jesus, me included, continue to scratch their heads in annoyance, interrupted from their agendas, their private times with Jesus, examining their loaves and fish. As I have followed Jesus since 1989, more times than I can count, I've been that fumbling, annoyed disciple with my own agenda who's looked very different from the master's. Lord, thank you for your patience. I give you Ed Caisse.
Thank you, Rondi. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I really want to just thank Rondi, for everything he does, not just allowing me to come and share today. I like what Rondi said. Rondi said that as he's been doing this work, his relationship with God has grown. Both of us have experienced that. It's because when you get out there and you see it and you become part of it, God leads you to get to a deeper place in his walk with you. But what I want to thank Rondi is Rondi's so engaged in so many different areas of the initiative. I mean, one, he's our leader in so many areas, but he's part of the networking meetings. He's part of the basketball. He's part of the family fun nights. He's part of the back to school events. So he's part of so many different areas. So he has seen so much. And I thank you for that, Rondi. Publicly, I just want to say thank you for who you are and how sensitive you are to God. So today, I just really want to share what we've been really doing since 2011. So I do think it's important that I share a little bit about myself so you can understand why I have such a passion for this work. And I do too. Sometimes when I get up and talk, I think that I talk so passionately about the work. I don't want people to think that I think I know everything because I'm a student. I was reminded how Paul said, I'm the least of all the disciples. I feel that way so many times. In fact, I want to share, as I share about who I am, not just working at the Sheriff's Department for the last 30 years, totally surrendered my life to Christ in January of 1999. 3 years on fire for God, and then I hit a place where I become self-righteous. I think I made it somewhere in my walk with God. That was 7 years of me living lukewarm, but the mercy, grace, and love of God, that he rescued me, even as a self-righteous Christian, really thinking about myself, even missing out on so many things in my family. But if I showed you the long list of things that I lost, including a house that I built, you'll understand consequences that come from being lukewarm and why it said to us in Revelation that he might spew us out. But God is so graceful. God is so gracious, and he has been to me. He shook me and woke me up in 2008. And I haven't missed reading the Bible not one day since then. And don't take it the wrong way. I don't say that with a level of pride. I say it because God is good and he loves us so much. And even me, that self-righteous man for 7 years who lost so much and wasn't filling the role of a husband, a father, or even a Christian. But he came and saved me again and woke me up. And I haven't been the same since. So it's been a continued growth since then. But what we learn is we learn to stack spiritual discipline upon spiritual discipline to help us get to deeper places in our walk with God. So I was sharing in the back in 2011 when we first wanted to go out and start the initiative. 6 months later, I'm like, this is too hard. The issues in our community are too comprehensive. So I thought about just turning in the towel. But then I felt the nudge of God saying this is where he wanted me to be. I want you to understand, when we decided to start a pilot in South Holyoke, just one of the toughest neighborhoods in Holyoke at the time, it's still a tough neighborhood. When we decided to start a pilot back then in 2011, lost my train of thought, it was called the South Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative. And it was just a pilot. I'm looking at the screen and it's throwing me off, losing my train of thought. But so we knocked on 400 doors in 2012, and we found out that 65% of the kids down there had never attended an after-school program. So immediately after seeing the stats, what we decided to do was start some things. There's one school down in the neighborhood called Morgan School. We started to do table tennis clubs. We got 15 kids. We started to do a boxing program. We were taking the kids from Morgan School up to the Boys and Girls Club. We had a space that could fit 15 kids we can only fit in there. So even though we would run 2 a year, again, it was only 15 kids. And we wanted to reach larger numbers after seeing those statistics. I mean, that 3-block radius, those 400 family units that we knocked on doors, I forgot that I can change the slide myself. So I'm going to try to go to the next slide. Ryan, maybe you can help me get to the next slide. Rhonda, you might know how to work this. Yeah. And when I lost my train of thought, that slide, it was this I wanted to say. So I've been working at the Sheriff's Department for 30 years. I've been running a high-risk reentry program for the last 17 and a half years. You know how many times that I have met with inmates in this program trying to change criminal thinking that I said, this guy never had a shot. I mean, imagine meeting a 19-year-old kid who lost his mother, lost his father. He's growing up in a neighborhood that's got so much negative influences pulling him down the wrong roads. How many times I look from inmate to inmate to inmate to say, this guy never had a shot. And I say to myself, imagine if we could have met him at 10, 11, or 12 years old. We could have probably changed the direction of his life. Maybe he doesn't end up incarcerated. So working for the Sheriff's Department, I'm going out to run an initiative, but it's part of my job. It's really a secular thing that I'm doing, going out there until I get the nudge from the job, from God. That's why I was saying in the back that, you know, what starts as our secular job, God can use it. And I think sometimes we limit what God can do even on our 9-to-5 jobs. But God wants to glorify himself through us 24 hours a day, no matter where we're at, even on our jobs. So I go out to start this secular thing the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, back then South Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, but God begins to nudge me to let me know that this is a ministry that he wants me to be part of. This is a ministry that he wants me to drive. He wants me to get to know multitudes of people, both youth and families. And he wants me to walk it out in such a way. He wants me to raise up believers to get to a place and come out and to invest in the life of youth and families and help people get to different places. So this is how we got started in Holyoke. But that survey that I mentioned in 2012, when you look at 65% of the kids in that neighborhood, based on the survey, it was a 3-block radius. It's about 400 family units. So 2.5 kids per survey, the survey told us, 2.5 kids per household. So do the math on it. So it's probably close to 1,000 kids, and 65% of her never attended an after-school program. So to me, the stats were telling me that we need to do something. So that's why we started the table tennis club. We started the boxing program. We tried flag football. We got 25 kids. We tried volleyball. We got 20. The first season we did basketball, we got 56 kids. Now our basketball leagues, we try to run 2 12-week leagues every year. We have over 300 kids in the basketball league. So basketball is a big draw. And even though we still do other things, like I have a personal goal of starting the table tennis club in every school in Holyoke. At this year's back-to-school event, we're going to have the AYTTO come down, the American Youth Table Tennis Organization. So they're going to bring a team of kids from New York and Boston to do a demonstration at our back-to-school event, hoping we can get more kids interested in table tennis. So we're trying to get kids involved in positive activities. So here's what I like to say. When I'm trying to get coaches and volunteers, sometimes it's hard to get people to volunteer and understand the need. So being able to come out and talk to people and let them know that needs are great in communities, and I think in every tough community, in every city that has tough neighborhoods or pockets of, criminal activity, like Holyoke especially did back then and still does. There's a couple really tough neighborhoods. So in fact, I could identify 5 or 6 neighborhoods in Holyoke that really have pockets of crime that's pulling on young people at a young age. So what we want to do is create activities and venues where we can then get the kids in front of us and we can model good behavior. We can be intentional about character development and mentoring. So that's one of the things we try to do. Let me go to the next slide. Yeah, so I don't know if you can read that. But so our mission is to work with everyone. When we first started, when I knew that it was God that was directing me to do this, it was funny because some of my Christian friends would be like, you're the one doing the secular, not necessarily my friends, but Christian acquaintances. You're the one doing that secular work in Holyoke, right? And I say, yep, I'm doing that secular work. That's where God wants me to be, doing the secular work, because that's where the people are. Rondi talked a little bit about Jesus' heart. And Jesus has a heart for the lost. And Jesus comes after us. And Jesus uses us to go reach others that are lost. So in certain communities like Holyoke and Springfield and Chicopee, there's a lot of pockets of negativity or criminal activity, a lot of negative influences in neighborhoods that are pulling kids down the wrong way. So, when Rondi asked me about coming to talk and share about the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, he had the title. Give me the title. Yeah, loving your city. So, I'm hoping that we can get more and more both lay members in the church and leaders of the church to understand the impact that we can make. In fact, Friday night, we're at the basketball league at the Y on Friday night. And you got to know the way we set up the table. So I got 2 scorekeepers over here, 2 scorekeepers over here. And by the way, 3 out of the 4 scorekeepers are Christians, which is cool to me. So when I think about it, it was always so hard for me to get Christians to come involved in the work, because Christians are always trying to get to a better place. They don't got time to go out and volunteer and stuff. When we first started, I had all secular volunteers. And then I started to recruit some of my Christian friends, and it started to grow. I was looking at the math because I knew I was coming today. So 25 of our coaches and volunteers for this summer league, out of 65 volunteers that come in and day out, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 25 out of 65 are actually Christians, which is really encouraging to me, because we're growing the number of Christians that are coming out and getting involved in the work. So on Friday night, and one of our scorekeepers, he's not he's not currently going to a church, and he just started to become a scorekeeper just a couple weeks ago. I got connected to him through one of the agencies, and you don't realize the impact you can make. But when I heard him talk about what his perception was of the work we were doing, he was blown away of the work we were doing because he's been watching it. For a couple weeks, he was watching it. Now he became a scorekeeper. But I talked to him about my walk with God that night as he's keeping score. I'm sharing with him how I got to where I'm at right now. And I share the whole story. I shared with him about my 7 years of lukewarm. I don't want anybody to go through those 7 years that I went through and end up losing so much. I want people to have a close relationship. And I'm not saying that I'm super close to God, but I got a lot of spiritual disciplines in place to help me get closer and closer to God. I mean, we're a work in progress, so I'm striving to get to that next level, but I'm hopeful because the Bible tells me you can go from glory to glory to glory, so I'm ready to get to the next level. But it's really cool to me that I can share my experience about being a Christian and how I got to even where I'm at right now. I mean, the good news is I know that he's got a newer place to take me to, but where I'm at right now, I can share with people that are our volunteers and our coaches, or maybe even some of our other Christian coaches that might be struggling with certain things in their life. I can walk it out a certain way. We're not just reaching youth and families out in the community, but we are. But even the volunteers that are coming out working for us, even brothers and sisters in Christ. One of our other scorekeepers just started about a month ago with us. One of our other leaders actually brought her in. And as she's keeping score, of course, conversations start. The guy she's keeping score with is obviously a Christian too. They're talking all about God. And they didn't even know they were in the same church because the church is pretty big. So that's cool to me. That even at our basketball leagues and stuff, the conversation that goes on. So for those that just look from afar and don't understand how we're putting so much time and energy in our life into this secular work, this is kingdom building work. And that's how Rondi and I talk about it. And that's why Rondi and I are trying to get to a closer place in our walk with God so we can be more successful at kingdom building work, because that's what's driving us. It's not about building the Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative. It's about building youth and families and modeling it out and educating people and discipling people and getting people to know who God is and to get to a closer relationship with him. It's about building the kingdom of God up. That's what our work is really all about. So I just showed a picture from our networking meeting. So we do a networking meeting. I just wanted to share some of the things that we do because people want to know how you got started. I shared how we got started, but I should have gave you a little bit more details. When I decided to try to see if the sheriff would allow me on my work hours to be able to go out into Holyoke and start something, a pilot called South Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, I was looking to see what was out there. And that's why as I was talking in the back, people can look at what we're doing and maybe they're in a different city or a different area and they want to try to start something. It's possible to start in every area. And I always encourage people, like people come to me about Springfield and they say, Eddie, I don't see anything happening in Springfield like you guys are doing. Well, there's some things happening and you can help take it to a new level if you become part of it. Like the C3 policing is in 4 neighborhoods in Springfield. So I encourage people to get involved with those 4 C3 neighborhoods because it's neighborhoods where there's a lot of agencies working together, and just get in there and help take that work to a new level. So for someone who wanted to kind of start something like what we're doing is I say the best place to start is something that's already established. I mean, because it's hard to go out and just start a pilot on your own. But if there's a C3 and you wanted to start in that area, or there was some kind of initiative, a policing initiative or something in the community, that's probably a good thing if the police are trying to clean up a neighborhood, that we can go out and partner with them. But I too, at the end, will talk a little bit about, because to me, it's funny, we've been doing it for 12 years, and then a lot of times I sit back and reflect on where we're at, and I feel like we're just getting started. I really do. I really feel like we're just getting started. As I can see the numbers of Christians going up, I think we're going to get more and more Christians, and I think the impact that we're going to make greater impacts on more and more people because we're getting more and more, people that really have a deep relationship with God involved in the work we're doing. Another thing, I don't even think I mentioned this when I told you the things that I'm really impressed with Rondi being part of all these different areas. We started something called Coach Huddle. I didn't get to the Holyoke Hub, but we've been doing it for about 2 years. Every Saturday morning at 7:30. Who wants to get up on a Saturday morning at 7:30? Someone who needs to get to a closer relationship with God. Me. I need to get to a closer relationship with God, so we started this coach huddle. If you know anything about Fellowship of Christian Athletes, they want all their Christian athletes to get disciplined to have a deeper relationship with God and get closer, so they do these Bible studies. And that's what our coaches huddle is on a Saturday morning. Somebody's bringing a word and we're getting closer to God. So it's just another spiritual discipline. So the other thing I do want to talk about before I forget to talk about it is, so for years, since we started, we always had in our mind that as we're working with youth and families, we want to try to help them get to better places. So what we want to do is make referrals to the families to get connected to an agency that has resources. And that's why the networking meeting has always been so important to me. And that's why we've done it once a month since 2011. I think we started every 2 weeks for a while. And then when we went to once a month, I think we canceled once because of snow when we were meeting in person, but I can't think of another time that we canceled it. We do it consistently every month. And for me, it's so important because this work is relational. As we need to get a closer relationship with Jesus, we need to develop a closer relationship with people that actually have resources to help some of our people get connected. That's what I liked what Daniel Torres was trying to do with his group, and he was coming to the meetings and trying to get some of the pastors connected to resources in the community to help people get to better places, because the reality is the church doesn't have every resource. It really doesn't. We just don't. You know what I mean? But there's so many resources out there. So the networking meeting and trying to develop close working relationship with them, because here's the other thing about me, is if I'm going to refer a youth and a family to an agency, I want to have a good feel about them. Randy and I were talking about, we were going over some bullets and stuff, and I had told him there's challenges to the work, I've identified early on, 2012, 2013, that not everybody in human service work is in it for the right reason. You know what I mean? So you got to navigate that. So when I'm going to make a referral to a youth and family to an agency, I want to make sure that I have relationship. I mean, I know Rondi Allen from Crosspoint Clinical Services. I can feel good about referring mom to Crosspoint Clinical Services because of the relationship. So I want to get a relationship with every agency that has resources for youth and families, and that's what the networking meeting does for us. I wanted to show this stat. I talked a little bit about it, but this is the survey that we did in 2012. Now, we use Western New England University to analyze all of our data. In fact, we set up, these are things that you can do when you're connected to a lot of people. So that first survey that we did in 2012, when we knocked on all those doors, we attempted to hit every door, but you can see we only made 284 doors in South Holyoke. And Western New England University actually set up everything. We kind of created the survey questions together, and we had about 45, 46 volunteers. We would send them in groups of 4 knocking on doors in the toughest neighborhood in Holyoke. We had the police working out there patrolling while they're knocking on doors, and then we got all these surveys. So these surveys told us some things. So total surveys completed, you see in 2012 we had 132. In 2013 we had 120. One of the things we did in 2013 is we added some questions. And what it did is we were too long at a door. So when we do our next survey, we haven't done one in years because we've been so busy doing the work to try to meet some of the needs that we haven't had time to do another survey. But these were stats that stood out. 2.49 kids per household, and then participation in youth after school program, you see no, 65% of them. So the surveys told us 65% of the kids that never attend after school program. That's an issue. The resources were in Holyoke, but kids weren't getting connected to them for whatever reason, and there was a bunch of reasons. But the very next year, so what happened from 2012 to 2013? We started those table tennis clubs, boxing programs, flag football, volleyball. We do the same survey, and now we find out that participation in the after-school program, 63% of them said yes. So almost 180-degree turn, so which is really cool to me. So you get out there, you do some work, you do a survey, you find out where things are at, you take the data that you have, you make some adjustments, put some strategic plans in place, and you fix things, and that's what's cool. So we just updated this on our website. So 19,000 people, community residents, we engaged 250 hours of family fun nights. So that's about how many families that we've engaged since we've been doing the family fun nights since 2012. And then 10,000 plus volunteer hours. So we feel we added all the hours up. You know, when you look at a coach, a basketball league in itself, 65 volunteers. Some of them are there for 3 hours a night. You know, the average volunteer is there for 1 hour a night. But we did the math on it, over 10,000 volunteer hours that we put into the work that we're doing. And then with the back-to-school events, like this year, we're anticipating 3,000 to 3,500 at the back-to-school event. I'll show you a video. I know I'm getting short on time already. But 20,000 people have come to our back-to-school events over the years. I show this, and I show it because it's not just running a 12-week basketball league. Like here, we're doing our championship next Friday in UMass, which is really cool. So through being intentional to develop relationship, what I've learned, and I think both Rondi and I and many of you, what we learn is when you put spiritual disciplines in place and to work on developing a closer relationship with God and becoming to that next level, you know, becoming more like Jesus, you're developing relationships and you're getting better at developing relationships. And as long as we stay close to God and get out of his way, like for years, sometimes I get in his way. I was sharing in the back that in the last 6 months, I had 2 incidents. One where I was short with my wife, and 2 where I was short with a friend of mine as we were trying to set up. We got like 15, 20 minutes to set up before it's 5 o'clock. And I was a little, Rondi has heard this, I was a little anxious. He said to me, Eddie, the lights are still on. I know I got it. And I just kept going rather than take the time out. But that convicted me. And being harsh with my wife convicted me. Now, before it wouldn't have convicted me so much because it didn't seem like a big thing. Not to them, but it even before didn't seem like a big thing to me. But I think as we grow in our relationship with God and we become more and more sensitive to his Holy Spirit, I think when we do make those mistakes, God allows us to remember them so we don't continue to make them. That's something we take in our prayer. And I got to be honest with you, both of those, I repented to God. I apologized to my wife. I apologized to Raphael. Even I apologized to him again publicly. I think I apologized to my wife for 3 or 4 days in a row because it hurt my heart that I spoke to her harshly. So it's cool to me that as you grow in your relationship with God, you become a new person. Even if you've been a Christian for 20 years, you can become a new person. You can get to a new level. And that's what Rondi was saying, that we have found that our relationship with God is growing. And so with that, our relationships with other people are growing as well. And that's why if you're going to build the kingdom of God, especially in a neighborhood that's challenged, like with poverty and all those social issues that Rondi was talking about that Jesus was dealing with, you really got to have a close relationship with God, and I think you really got to be intentional to try to develop relationships. And then when you do develop relationships, certainly with key people, you can end up having like your all-star game for inner city youth in Holyoke at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Or you can have your championship game up at UMass, which is really cool. But all that takes intentionality in terms of developing relationships. So it never ends. As we continue to try to develop a relationship, a closer relationship with God, we need to continue to try to have more and more relationships with people, whether they're youth that we're working with, the families. And that's where I think we fall short a lot, because you get so busy on a given night that you're so busy with the event that you don't have enough people or enough time. So this was last Friday. I was sharing with you how I was sharing with one of the scorekeepers about my walk with God. Well, I trained my wife that night, Rondi, on how to do the publisher files so she could do them, and I don't have to worry about posting the standings on Facebook. I can walk and talk. So a guy that I have never, his son's been coming for 2 years, I have never had a conversation with him. But Friday night, I was intentional to go walk and have a conversation with him. And this is what I'm talking about. It felt so good to be able to stand back there and be able to share with this father, and him share with me. You know, he shared a little bit about it. And he lives right down the street from me. I had told him, the next time I drive by and you're out there doing your yard work, I'm coming to talk to you. So relationship is so important, but we have to be intentional. last Friday I knew I needed to get up and walk and talk to people, and that's what I did Friday night, and we need to do a better job with that. We can't let just that basketball night, and that's why it's important for us to have a number of volunteers so someone can spend that time interacting with people. And Kathy knows from Hope Worldwide, I always told Kathy that we need to have a percentage of volunteers to just sit with the people and talk and develop relationships, because that's what this work is all about. I'm trying to go to the next slide. Sorry. No, so we do different things, right? We do family fun nights. We do neighborhood cleanups. We partner on different events that people are having in the community. We create different events like the basketball and the table tennis clubs. I don't know, Ryan, if there's volume. Yeah. So, excuse me. This was our All-Star game from a few years ago at the Hall of Fame. It's so crazy to me, and Rondi's going to see someone in here who is on his team right now, and this kid has grown so much. And now, Rondi, he's in 10th grade, 11th grade? And he was in 6th grade during this video, so tells you how old the video is. But it's cool to me. It's cool that we can be connected to the kids for this long. So
hey guys, Will Manager here reporting to you.
It's cool that we can put on an event like this. I'm gonna let you share the volume for a few minutes.
Free throw contest. I am joined here by the winner. May you please state your name and what school you go to?
My name is Gabriel Fernandez. I go to
now.
McMahon School in Holyoke.
So, how did you enjoy the free throw competition?
I enjoyed it because like we all got to get a chance against everyone, and they gave us each 10 shots, and I liked it.
How exciting was it at the very end when you guys were tied? What do you think was going to happen next?
I thought she was gonna make the rest and beat me, but then when they said tie, I had to take my time because when I made 3 and we tied, I didn't take my time.
I show the videos just so you can see some of the work we're doing. So this is our back to school event. Some of you might have seen it. This was actually last year's event. I just want you to know the capacity of the work that we're doing and how it takes so many volunteers. This event takes about 250 to 300 volunteers just to man all the stations. And then we have about another 100 volunteers in the community service area. But what we're trying to do to the youth and families is develop relationship, giving them a day that they can enjoy themselves with food and activities, but also thinking about giving kids life, I don't know, just life moments that they can think about for a long time. Like, I wonder when we go up next Friday to play at UMass, how many of those memories kids are going to be holding on to for years to come that they actually played up in UMass, even playing at the Basketball Hall of Fame. So being able to create life memories for kids, most importantly to me, is the relationship that we can develop with them after we expose them to those kind of experiences. And they get to know you, and they get to appreciate you, and they get this level of respect for you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so we do a lot of different activities at the back to school event. We have family portraits. We're gonna try to cut 150 heads this year. We bought a new tent. We're gonna move it to a different area of the park. We got 8 barbers already lined up that they're gonna stay there all day. Last year, they really complained about the heat. So we ordered some sides to the tent. We're gonna put an air conditioner in there, the barber tent. We give out about 1,000 Bibles every year. I know Pastor Andino has been to the back to school event. We have a prayer tent. Just wanted to show you some of the things that we've been doing. So this was our championship from last summer. I just want you to hear some of the comments because we got feedback from players, parents, and coaches.
I'm Angel, and I'm in 4th grade. Ovani, and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is Geraldine, and I'm in grade 3 going to 4th grade.
Just to have fun. It's fun, and I want to play with my teammates.
When you're gonna play, always remember to talk to your teammates so they could pass you the ball and stuff.
My name is Jorli Aponte, and I'm in 6th going to 7th.
My name is Carlos Santiago, and I'm going to 7th grade.
I just wanted to play because I just knew I could get better and improve other players that just started.
This league is just for fun. Try your best. You'll get a trophy at the end.
We give out trophies
My name is
to the
Joshua
championship
Bruno,
team
and
a runner-up.
I'm coming a senior.
My name is Jadiel Bro, and I'm an upcoming freshman.
My name is Jared Suarez, and I'm an upcoming freshman.
I would say probably the best thing overall is like meeting like new people.
Not only a basketball experience, but you'll learn a lot for your own life.
Playing this league, I just learned a lot of like life, you know, like our coaches and the speaker, they're adults already, so they already gone through so much that they could teach us and what we could learn.
That's why it's important to have the right people out there volunteering.
My name is Jonathan Medina.
My name is Delano Bailey. I work for the Committee for Public Counsel Services.
Well, my name is Rafael Santos, and I work for the Hampton County Sheriff Department.
I want to say all the coaches here try to help them out. I haven't coached high school since last year, and I still talk to my high school kids, so it's just staying in touch with them, trying to keep them off the streets.
It's bigger than just basketball, you know what I mean? We're teaching kids life lessons, we're learning from them, we're learning from their families, we're getting to know our families in the community, so this is all community-based, and it's what community-based is about, right here.
Well, one of the things that we know for sure is that a lot of these kids that are here has some struggles in some areas of their life. You know, some of them may not have like a father figure and things like that. And I think that us as mentors, as coaches and family, community agencies that come out to support them definitely make an impact in their life. It gives them something to look forward to on a regular basis.
My name is Christy, and my daughter is Sue Hollies. Everybody calls her Sue, and she's in 6th grade. I think it's huge. I think basketball can help mold kids and guide them properly, you know. Do it. It's good for your child. Take a few, hours a week, invest in your children and help them, because it's just something that they can carry on with them.
My name is Michela Moran, and my son is Arturo Moran. This has been an amazing experience. The league has been very supportive. He has had so much growth, so much teamwork, so many memories. It's been amazing. Yes, absolutely join. It will be a good experience, bonding for your family, for your children making new friendships, connections, lifetime memories.
You guys be careful for the rest of the summer. We'll do this again next year, keeping the same team. I'm not adding nobody. You remember everything that we went through this year to get this. But it wasn't only all about this. It was about learning to get to know each other and going through the grind. Understand?
Yes, coach.
We are what? How we win games?
Defense and teamwork.
What's number one playing basketball? That's why y'all won, because y'all had fun. They made a little run. We don't panic. We stay the course. Understand?
Let's go.
All right, love you. Be safe. Be safe. Family on 3, team on 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. Hey, if y'all need me, call me.
No, I put this up there just to let people know. It's funny because people still call it the South Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative. We're really trying to reach all of Holyoke. From my perspective, there's 7 wards in Holyoke. I live in Ward 7. So those 6 wards, to me, all have pockets of negativity or negative individuals in that neighborhood. So we need to raise up people. We need more and more people. We're making an impact with the work we're doing, but we really need more people to get involved in it. So I just put this up there. Rondi asked me to put up some practical points on how people could either get started or you could get involved. So I say this, we're always looking for more volunteers. In fact, we're really looking for the churches. I mean, I love the church. I love kingdom building work, and to see more and more brothers and sisters of Christ coming out and really trying to reach the lost together is really cool. It's a cool thought for me. So we want to welcome anybody that wants to partner on anything that we're doing. You can reach directly out to me. There's a lot of community initiatives around. I mention it in different cities. So if you're someone that is interested in starting something, with your church, first I say this, I mean, I say to pastors understand, the importance of what our cities are experiencing, and they really need the church. They need to see the love of Christ. They need us to have a great love for them. And I think we need to identify lay leaders in the church, because I think it's important that the lay leaders could actually mentor some of the other volunteers. That's why I like to be there every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I just want to be around them. I want to be able to mentor godly behavior to them. I want to take advantage of teaching moments to them, but also to have conversations, and it's so exciting when those conversations come up. So, we've been talking about the community center for so long, and we talk around the coaches. We talk about it around the kids sometimes. A kid says to me Tuesday night, the kid said to me, Eddie, have you found a land yet to build a community center? And I said, no, but I said, do you believe in God? And he said, yeah. I said, pray. He said, okay. So it's cool to me, I mean, it's cool that they're listening to us. It's cool that they're a large number of them, and not every one of them. We're dealing with some really tough kids. We're dealing with kids that have experienced trauma, and then layer of trauma, and then layer of trauma. In fact, not just growing up in poverty, not just growing up without their biological father, growing up in a neighborhood where they're witnessing violence, even in their households, witnessing violence. So a lot of the kids that we're dealing with in Holyoke and with the league, some of these kids have experienced layer and layer and layer of different traumas. But I think if you really didn't have the bandwidth to be able to, within your church, to go out and target a specific community, you can partner with different organizations or police departments. In Springfield, I put up the C3 meetings in both Chicopee and Springfield, creating an outreach team with the individual church, and maybe even focusing on the area around the church, things like that. It's funny, we had some volunteers come with us for a long time, and then I see they were starting to replicate some of the things we were doing in their church in Springfield. That's cool to me. If we can do something good and you can feel like maybe if you can replicate it, and then just creating a network focused on a specific city. So for me, the networking meeting is so important to me to be able to get leaders and agency representatives to be willing to come out and assist in the work in terms of building up youth and families and helping people get to better places. I wanted to save a couple minutes for questions, but I do want to just share a little bit real quick about the Holyoke Hub. So we had planned it, I think, for almost 2 years, Rondi. We were planning it, and then we opened it up about a year ago. We've had 56 situations come to a table. Well, what is the Holyoke Hub, Eddie? Saskatchewan, Canada had a model in the Prince Albert area of Canada where they would come together weekly with all these different agencies, and then situations were brought to a table. What is a situation? A situation could be a 29-year-old man who's struggling with addiction, who's homeless, that's got mental health issues, that doesn't have a job, that needs to get connected to wraparound services. So the hub is a place that has all those agencies that can then get people connected to services quickly. There's 4 filters. The first filter would an agency bring in a person to the hub. So in the second filter, we would actually have them start to talk, and we would try to find out if they're at acutely elevated risk. So we would ask 3 questions. Is there a probability of harm if we don't intervene? And if you answer yes, we go to the next question. Is it likely that this harm is going to continue? If you answer yes, we go to the next question. Are we crossing several service sectors? Because if it was somebody who just needed housing, we'll get them connected to a housing agency. But if it's somebody that needs to get connected to all these different resources, all these risk factors in their life, we decide to build a filter 4 team. So let me go to filter 3. So filter 2 is identify an acutely elevated risk. Filter 3 is where you would do name recognition. So at that point, the agency that brought that situation to the table will mention the name, date of birth, and address of the individual to find out if any agencies are already engaged. Then we would build what we call a filter 4 team, a team of agencies that's going to stay together as long as they need to stay together to actually work on those situations. We have seen, and I'll be honest with you, when you see 10 or 12 agencies working on a situation and you see that situation, in fact, I shouldn't say the number of the situation, but one of the situations actually started coming to our church. That's cool. And Rondi and I had a chance to meet with another situation that was someone that was going to commit suicide, and we were actually in the house praying with them and inviting them to come to church and stuff. So that's really cool to me. And there's a place for the church to be part of the Holyoke Hub. We need more churches to be involved in this community work. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to answer a question if anybody had, or ask a question if anyone had any questions.
So the back to school events that you hold, did you ever get any pushback from the community for the prayer tents and for?
Never. Amazing, right?
Wow.
Once. So here in 2020, because of COVID, we don't want to cancel the event, but we can't do the outdoor event. They're not letting us, right? So we did 10 individual events at the school, but we pack up all the backpacks and we put Bibles in the backpacks because we have a Bible tent, and we got pushback. When the news came and took a picture of everything and they did the presentation, we had a press conference at the Sheriff's Department, and we put all the supplies on the table. Somebody seen a Bible there. Got back to the school committee ended up shutting us down. So we had to take every Bible out of the bag before we gave the bag out. But other than that, we haven't had no pushback at all, which is absolutely amazing.
Well, thanks for sharing this very inspiring stuff. Can you speak to a little bit about just that initial getting things started, the networking that went into that? How did that kind of unfold? Who were some of the key contacts in the city that you initially made? How did they kind of get on board with what you were dreaming and scheming about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I usually share it when I do this presentation. So whenever I know this is just me. I tell you, there's areas that I need to grow in. Whenever I know I'm going to be in a place where I get nervous around pastors. I get nervous about talking in front of pastors sometimes, so to be totally frank with you. But here's what I usually tell people. So part of my job at the Sheriff's Department, I do high-risk reentry. So what I was doing is I was going to community justice meetings where we would go out to a community meeting where there would be parole, probation, all these different law enforcement agencies, and I would share high-risk offenders that are scheduled to get released. So that's what I used to bring to the table. When I heard about the C3 policing in Springfield, and I went to those meetings, and I was like, wow, I love some aspects of it. I wanted to replicate it. So not only did I talk to the sheriff about us replicating it, I brought it to the community justice meeting when there was only the chief of probation and the chief of juvenile probation. Nobody else showed up that day, so there's only 3 of us there. And I'm saying, how about if we got better at the work we're doing? Here we are, I'm sharing with you guys inmates that are scheduled to get released. How about if we got so effective at the work, we can prevent the next generation of youth from ever being incarcerated in juvenile lockup? Wouldn't that be cool? And they said, well, what would that look like? I said, we just get all these agencies together and we start working together and we prevent it. But it didn't seem like it went anywhere. So I tried it again months later and they bought into it. So then we set up a meeting. We identified, well, who we need to come to the table if we were going to do something like this. So we ended up getting like 7 people came to the table, and then we brainstormed again, and we got like 20 people. So we identified different agencies that might have had resources that could help youth and families get to a better place, and we brought them to the table. And then we decided to do a presentation. So we ended up creating flyers, and we sent it out to every agency we can think of. So yeah, we had to do some legwork identifying all these agencies, all the agencies that we felt were important, city people like the mayors and the police chiefs and all those people. And we did a presentation at Morgan School. We had about 80 people there, and we just continued to go from there. So it takes work, it takes preparations, it takes thinking it out, but that's how we got started. And yeah, it's identifying who's those right agencies that we're going to need to have relationship with. And I think sometimes as the church, sometimes we struggle with this because I think I've been around church people that really don't want to work with that agency, that agency, that agency, that agency, and then we never get to make the impact in the community that we need to make because we don't really want to work with every agency. So sometimes we got to set aside that stuff and do what God wants us to do in terms of who we are. And what we are for him, and go out there and do it wherever we need to do it. And it doesn't matter who's around, because once we show up, God's around.
Any questions online? Okay, great. Thank you, Ed. Let's give it up for Ed. You know, as you're telling that story, I'm welling up all over the place, thinking about, different things, we've seen, that I've seen, thinking about, that kid that they interviewed, we got a playoff game tonight. He better be there. But he's actually played football with my son since 5th grade. He's the quarterback, and they've been, so we've been around each other a lot. And thinking about the network builder, God has gifted Eddie in that way. Just at that networking meeting, there's probably 60 to 80 agencies pretty faithfully at that meeting. We were meeting in person until COVID, and then we flipped virtual and we stayed virtual, but the attendance has stayed really high. That hub meeting, between 20 and 30 neighborhood networking partners that are on that meeting, clinical agencies, housing agencies, all kinds of things. I remember once, probably about early 2021, there was a series of shootings in Holyoke, and there was community concern, wondering if this, what this pattern's about, So Ed calls for a meeting. We're going to meet down at the Morgan School. And maybe 3-4 days notice, there's 100 people in the room: police, schools, principals, mayor, superintendent, concerned citizens, and that's a gift, and it makes me think about what God wants for community and for the kingdom, and where the most distressed, most at risk, most vulnerable, that we would turn our concern toward them. And it's very life-giving work. I think, obviously not everybody that's engaged with us is coming from a place of faith, but there's something that they recognize, a beauty, a power that they recognize that I believe draws them in. And I believe, again, that's what God wants. It puts him on display. So Ed, thank you again. Thank you way beyond this room for all that you do. Thank you for sharing that story. Please reach out, as he said, his information is behind me, for information, for tips, to partner. We're going to record this and distribute it to people who registered. It is being recorded. Again, in terms of future pastors' luncheons, if you have feedback about other things that would be helpful to you, we'd love to hear it. And if there's anything else we can be helpful with, please reach out for that as well. Thank you for attending and participating today, everybody.